Of all the things that are discussed and debated and shouted about online when it comes to pro wrestling, star ratings are among the most contentious. I think it's important to acknowledge, first of all, that these things are all opinion-based. This is entirely subjective and they are down to the point of view of the person giving the rating. So when the Wrestling Observer drops on a Friday and a match you thought sucked gets 5 and a match you loved only gets 3, it ultimately doesn't matter that much, because if you think that something was a classic, I don't think it should really matter what Dave Meltzer assigns to it. Today's video is designed to kind of highlight some of the all-time great wrestlers, some of whom are currently active, who have never been awarded the celebrated or vaunted 5-star rating from Mr. Meltzer. That's what we're going by here. If they haven't been awarded it by the Observer, they are eligible for the video. There's a lot of names we've missed off here because there are a lot of great names who've never had this kind of thing before. And at the same time, this isn't in any particular order, by the way. They're not ranked in order of greatness or anything like that, but I will give my thoughts on them as we go through. And hey, look, when you consider that Lars Sullivan and Horace Hogan, yes, really, look that one up, have 5-star ratings to their name, it is very surprising that some of these names do not. So, with all that in mind, I'm Andy from WhatCulture, and here are the 13 best wrestlers with no 5-star matches. Number 13. Roman Reigns, who I think is one of the more surprising names on this list. He is, of course, currently active. And if you ask me about Dave and his standards and his preferences in Big 2025, I think he's extremely generous with the ratings he throws out there. Frequently going considerably higher on a lot of big-time matches in WWE and AEW and New Japan and everywhere else that he rates. So to me, it is quite surprising that Roman has never been awarded that score. His highest rated singles matches are at 4 3/4, so almost there. Almost at the highest on the scale, although the scale has obviously been broken a lot over the years. The latest time, the most recent match the Romans had that got that score was the triple threat with Seth Rollins and CM Punk at WrestleMania this year. So yeah, look, Roman's still active. He will have opportunities, and he is probably somebody who's going to get that award, the 5-star award, before he retires. But at the same time, with his schedule declining as the years pass by, maybe he is running out of opportunities. Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are there any Roman matches you personally feel are 5 stars? Let's hear about them. Number 12, Mercedes Moné. Speaking of people who will almost certainly get a 5-star award before their career is done. And another big surprise here, the former Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. And yeah, if you go through her catalogue, it's extremely surprising. You can go back to the classic seminal NXT work opposite Bayley. You can go all the way through her WWE run, and you can come all the way to the present day when she is active in both AEW and Japan. And yes, get your jokes in about her wrestling in AEW and Japan and not having a 5-star match. Tokyo Dome Ahoy, all of that stuff. But yeah, look, her highest rated singles matches are both 4 3/4. Those are against Toni Storm and Hazuki. One this year, one last year. But look, Mercedes is still doing it at a very high level, and she's going to be in opportunities to have great matches over and over and over again. What's particularly surprising about her, however, is that for me, she has always been the most action-focused, right? The most viscerally exciting, kind of explosive wrestler of the 4 horsewomen. And that is something that Dave has always gravitated towards. One of his favorite wrestlers ever is Manami Toyota, who was absolutely great, but she was stylistically very action-focused as well. So to me, it's a huge surprise that Mercedes hasn't already got a 5-star match rating, but look, if I was a betting man, I would put everything I own, including the eel, on her getting one before she retires. So she's probably safe, and she'll probably be off this list quite soon. Number 11, Kenta. Now, he almost certainly was never going to get one from his time as Hideo Itami in WWE, which came on the downswing of his physical capabilities and really did him no favors. I'm sure it did his bank account a bunch of favors, but yeah, not the strongest run of his career coming over and being Hideo Itami in WWE. But before that, Kenta was an absolutely demonic professional wrestler and one of the most acclaimed workers in the world. Even today, he's gone back to Pro Wrestling Noah. He's the GHC champion as I'm recording to this. He's adapted, he's evolved, he's compensating for the lack of athleticism that's not quite there compared to what it was when he was younger. He works a pretty hard-hitting style, and he's still killing it in completely different ways. So while I do think that his days of ever maybe getting 5 stars from the Observer are gone, it's really surprising considering that he was a very prominent figure in Japan with Noah, considering as well he was extremely prominent for Ring of Honor. I think his highest rated match on Cage Match is against Brian Danielson, what am I talking about, from Ring of Honor back in the day, but also an extremely highly rated one with Naomichi Marufuji from Noah in 2006. He's got about 4 or 5 matches at the 4 3/4, just not quite there. He's got to be, like, in terms of pure demonic ability, chaotic, brutal, pissy wrestling style, he's one of the more surprising names again on this list. Some of the names on this list aren't massively surprising when you break it down, but Kenta really is. He's one of the most influential wrestlers of his generation. If you've never checked out his work pre-NXT, I would urge you to do so. Just an absolute trailblazer, one of the most badass wrestlers of all time, and I'm still loving his work today. Number 10. Hulk Hogan. This is an interesting one to consider because while I don't think it's a huge surprise when it comes to like pure ring work or whatever, he's a huge name. He's the biggest name in the history of American wrestling. And when you break it down, when you look at his catalog and his resume, actually the highest rating that Hulk Hogan ever received for a singles match was his steel cage match with Ric Flair in WCW, which got 4 1/4. For me, the biggest omission when it comes to 5 or whatever is The Rock at WrestleMania 18. To me, that's a perfect WWE style match, and the Hulk up spot in that match in particular is one of the most awesome things I've ever seen. Probably if I speak any longer about it, I will get goosebumps, and what little hair I have will stand up on end. The thing about Hulk Hogan is that there is a sect of people, Dave Meltzer included, who will sometimes tell you that this guy was not a great wrestler between the ropes. I guess it just comes down to what you want from your pro wrestling, right? I mean, something that illustrates the philosophical difference really quite well is the fact that Dave has spent his entire career just pooping on the Andre the Giant match from WrestleMania 3. And look, yeah, it's a bear hug and a slam, right? It's not the most technically demanding thing in the world, but it was absolutely perfect for that setting and that moment in time. So it just comes down to the things you prefer, the things you value, the things that you base your ratings on. Dave, by the way, went -4 stars on that, which makes it one of the lowest rated matches in history. Completely mental. The Rock match at WrestleMania 18, 3 stars. Again, to me, that's absurd. The thing about Hulk Hogan is that he has probably been called bad or overrated as a wrestler so many times now that he has actually become a bit underrated. I would recommend just going back and watching some of his bits and pieces over the years. There's a really great Andre the Giant match actually from the early 80s where the roles are reversed. Andre's the face and Hogan's the heel. It's on YouTube. You can check it out for free somewhere. But yeah, tremendous bit of business across the board. And for me, I mean, if The Rock versus Hogan from WrestleMania 18 isn't a 5-star match, I just don't know what we're doing. Number 9, Rob Van Dam. This is another surprising one from the standpoint of Rob Van Dam being a very action-focused, flashy wrestler, and Dave always rating those kinds of wrestlers very high. Just not RVD's matches, according to the big man. His highest rated match by The Observer is 4.5 stars. It was against Danny Crockett in All Japan. I've never seen it. I will probably watch it now. And his highest rated match that might be more familiar to you guys came against Jerry Lynn, 4 1/4. Several times, even in ECW. So there you go. Van Dam's an interesting case, I think. He's very similar in a lot of ways to a guy that we'll talk about later on, and is usually at the heart of this debate. But yeah, he was a very flashy and influential in terms of the way he used his kicks and his flips and his rolls and his leaps and stuff like that. Super athletic dude packed into a pretty muscular frame. Real important wrestler for his era, but no 5-star matches. Number 8, Triple H. a very interesting name to consider here, because on one side you have people who will tell you he was one of the worst wrestlers of all time, and on the other you will have people who will tell you that he's like a top 3 of all time. I don't think he's either of those things, but I do think he has a long history of really great matches. I mean, one in particular, he has some stinkers too, don't get me wrong, but we're not here to talk about those today. One in particular match that for me that should get that mark, and I personally give that mark to, is the Cactus Jack match from Royal Rumble 2000. Remarkable street fight, absolutely disgusting. The footage of Triple H getting bits of wood picked out of his leg afterwards. Ugh, gross, terrifying. But he had other acclaimed matches. Obviously, the Rock rivalry was very important for Triple H's career. Steve Austin, a bunch of other opponents that you could throw this at. He's had 4 3/4 a bunch of different times. And obviously now he's retired, he's not going to ever get that mark. I don't think he cares. I doubt this keeps him awake at night. He's too busy running the Fed, doing all the creative over there. But yeah, Triple H, 0 on the 5s. Interesting one to consider. I think the Cactus Jack match, that street fight in particular, you could go 3 stages of hell as well. But to me, that's the best match of his career. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Number 7 is The Rock. Interesting, very interesting guy to position after Triple H, given that they are still allegedly jockeying for position backstage in WWE to this day. But the highest star rating The Rock has ever received for a singles match, he got 4.5 twice. Once against Chris Jericho, once against Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. Personally, I can see why you might downvote the WrestleMania 17 match a little bit because of the controversial ending and the aftermath and all that stuff. But for me, that's a childhood classic, man. I can't in any good faith sit here and tell you that I think that's anything less than a 5. Haven't watched it in a long time, though, admittedly. So hey, maybe my opinion will change on it. The Rock, in terms of like style and ability and things like that, he's maybe not the first name that jumps out, right? People might look at some of the other names on this and go, hey, they were more technically skilled, they were more athletic, whatever. But at the same time, it just comes down to a difference, like same with Hogan, really. Comes down in terms of coming down to a difference in what you value, in terms of crowd control and charisma and leaping out of the ring and all of this stuff. The Rock is at the very top of the pile, and he's obviously one of the biggest stars of all time. The Hogan match is a 5-star classic in my book. It's Cody Rhodes' favorite match as well, by the way. It's surprising in a bunch of different ways in terms of star power, stylistically, and going by what we know about Dave's preferences, maybe not so much. Number 6, Asuka, whose highest rated match by the Observer was 4.5 stars. I have to check that. Yeah, 4.5 stars versus Ember Moon in 2017. The thing with Asuka is I think that the reason that she doesn't have one is primarily a result of her most acclaimed work in Japan as Kana, taking place when Dave wasn't really rating a bunch of that stuff. If you go and have a quick look at her cage match profile and see the user ratings, there's a big discrepancy where there's all these matches from Japan and there's just no Observer rating for them. So I think that partly explains it. I think that at this stage in her career, Asuka slowed down a little bit. She's still doing good work, obviously. But I don't think she's going to probably hit that level unless she can maybe like wrestle Io Sky and they get like 25 minutes or something. That could be pretty damn special, actually. But yeah, somebody I always kind of hoped would get one, just as a nice little acknowledgement. Don't know if it's going to happen for her, but that doesn't mean her catalogue isn't incredible. Widely regarded as one of the best in the world before she signed with WWE, and then she goes to WWE, has the incredible NXT run. She's had her high spots on the main roster as well. Asuka's one of the best to ever do it in her lane, and I'm glad she's still here kicking ass in 2025. Number 5, Mick Foley, and this one absolutely blew my wig off earlier today reading up on these wrestlers who've never had a 5. How can you possibly explain that one? It's Mick Foley. He's one of the most important and iconic wrestlers of all time. You go back to the Triple H rivalry. You can talk about the Vader match from WCW. You can talk about the Shawn Michaels match in WWE in 1996. A whole bunch of others. Maybe some of the star-making matches, right? Like the Randy Orton match, the Edge match. You'd think that these would be candidates. However, the highest that Mick has ever been scored is 4 3/4. This is not any kind of black mark on his legacy at all. It's all opinion. And my opinion is that Dave is out to lunch. Dave, to be fair, has always been a bit of a safety guy, a bit of a hoo-ha, what's going on, look at this dangerous spot kind of thing. For better or for worse, in many cases, Mick has always been very high risk, so maybe those two things add up. But look, it's Mick Foley. He's one of the most influential, one of the best to ever do it. Guy, in my opinion, has multiple fives, but the big man disagrees. Number 4, Brock Lesnar, one of the best big men to ever do it in pro wrestling. Guy who has had like classic WWE matches against the likes of Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan. I've got his name wrong twice in the same video. What the hell are we doing? Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. I've got a bunch of them listed here. I mean, it's long. But the highest score Brock has ever been awarded for a singles match is actually 4.5 stars. Now, if you go into Cage Match, the alternative rating system voted by fans, his highest rated match on there is the Royal Rumble 2015 Triple Threat with Seth Rollins and John Cena, which is a tremendous match across the board. In terms of future prospects of Brock getting another one, we don't know what his WWE schedule is going to look like after he has this John Cena match. Will the Cena match get to that point? Dubious, personally. For me, 5 should be one of the all-time classics. You should know immediately. You should not second-guess yourself. It either is or it isn't. And there should only really be like 1 or 2 of them a year, I think. Not like 12 a month or whatever we have these days. We'll see how it goes. But he is back, so who knows? Maybe. Number 3, Mr. Perfect. Kurt Hennig, a guy who, if he was wrestling today, I mean, he would have like 12 5-star matches. He'd wrestle Will Ospreay 3 times in a row, and they'd probably go 5, 6, and 7. That's just the way the standards, the chief rater of these things applies these days, and the athletic evolution of the sport and all that good stuff. So actually, Mr. Perfect's highest rating by the Observer is 4.25 stars for a singles match versus Bret Hart. And he only has one of those at 4.25. Everything else is 4 and below, which is 4 still a great rating, by the way. But yeah, he does not have that catalogue of extremely highly rated bits by the Observer. Perfect is a guy who, when people talk about the best wrestler to never hold the WWE title, his name is often up there, along with Owen Hart and Jake Roberts and a bunch of other people. He is widely acclaimed as one of the best workers of his generation. That's because he is one of those. He was a guy who had a very high floor as well. So while if Hennig was working like a mid-card match or whatever, and it wasn't designed to steal the show and get 5 stars or whatever, it would still be of a very, very high caliber and usually above his opponent's level. A very impressive wrestler across the board. And yeah, like I said, if he was in AEW or WWE today, he would be pooping out 5 stars like it was no problem. Standards have changed, and his ratings are just a victim of that. Number 2, Kurt Angle. Always the first name to come up in this debate. Always the guy whose name comes to the forefront whenever a modern match gets 5 stars, and some people can't believe it. Kurt Angle never had a match rated 5. The highest he ever had was a 4.75. I'm going to need to look up his opponent. 2 matches, Shawn Michaels, one of them, and Chris Benoit, the other opponent in those 4.75 matches. Sorry, 2 matches with Benoit. He had 3 of them in total. I'm getting my numbers wrong. But look, Kurt Angle had 71 matches rated 4 stars or above, right? Clearly, Dave thought this guy was a great wrestler, a tremendous wrestler. I think that when this thing comes up with Kurt in particular and 5 stars and him not getting one, a lot of people are incredulous and they're like, Dave didn't rate him, which is completely mental because 4, by definition, is a great match. 5 should be one of the best matches you've ever seen. So you could definitely make the argument that Kurt has several. I would absolutely make that point myself, that are worthy of the 5 or whatever. I'm sure you guys have your own views, so let us know down below. What are your favorite Kurt Angle matches? What's getting 5? What's just below? Drop them down below. But yeah, Kurt is always the most obvious person. That's why I've saved him until second last, because number 1 is an absolute belter, folks. Number 1, Randy Savage. Macho Man never went above 4.5 stars in the Observer. Not even his WrestleMania 3 Classic with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat could break that mark. Obviously, later in his career, he transitioned into more of eccentric character-based guy. You get to the 90s and he fades from prominence a little bit, and his schedule becomes less regular and all of this stuff. So that is probably part of why he's on this video, really. Another part of it is that like much of his most acclaimed in-ring work flies under the radar a little bit. It's from his father's territory, ICW, in the 70s and the 80s. So that could be another possible reason why. And stylistically, well, he was unquestionably an absolutely tremendous pro wrestler. Maybe not quite fitting that action-heavy blueprint that Dave always kind of gravitates towards. Certainly not compared to like a Ricky Steamboat, for example. But yes, look, Savage, one of the most iconic, one of the most recognizable, one of the most impactful wrestlers of all time. Incredible run, incredible career. Not dampened whatsoever by a lack of a 5-star match like anyone else on this list. And look, I've not watched it in a long time, but yeah, WrestleMania 3 is the Steamboat match is for that era in particular, absolutely unbelievable. I don't subscribe to the idea that old stuff does not hold up. There's so many things that wrestling has improved on over the years in terms of athleticism and like getting the blood pumping and all of that stuff, and you know, escalating in crazy spots and all these things. But I also think that there's a lot we've lost along the way. If I was kind of to leave you at any point from this video, number one, it would be, don't worry, it doesn't matter that Dave disagrees that your favorite wrestler didn't have a 5. It's totally okay. It's just his opinion. Yours can be different, and that's totally fine. But number two, watch more old wrestling, man. Go back, do your homework, check some stuff out on WWE Vault or on anywhere else that you might find these old things. There are absolute gems there, and you might find that they scratch an itch that just isn't being scratched for you today. I've been Andy. This has been a lot of fun. Maybe we'll talk more star ratings later. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And let me know who I missed. There's loads of wrestlers that we didn't include today. Edge isn't on here, for goodness sake. Very close to putting him on the list. Throw them down in the comments below. Bye-bye. I'll see you later.